Welcome to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Ag Matters. I'm your host, Ken Hoffman. I'm a farmer out here in Palmer, a small vegetable farm called Matsu Microgreens. I'm also the executive director of the Alaska Farm Bureau. It's a great organization for farmers and people that depend on farmers to connect and get to know each other. So today we have Jenna from the Quail Life. Is that the name of your farm?
That's it.
Okay, cool. So if you want to start us off telling the audience a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in Alaska, and then go into quail.
Yeah.
How you got into quail.
Absolutely. I grew up in Southern California. I was considered the weird kid because I didn't like the sun and the heat. I spent more time, reading encyclopedias and stuff before hanging out. And I spent a lot of time with animals. I started rehabbing my first birds by, I think I was 7.
Wow.
The first time I took in a batch of them to raise and then release. And I've always loved animals. They make more sense to me than people. And no ulterior motives. They just are what they are.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a big fan of the heat and ended up moving to a mountain town in California, Big Bear, that had snow and everything, and I absolutely loved it. And then I dealt with some health stuff, and my friend up here, she had moved up here years ago, and she was like, well, I know you just got out of the hospital, didn't have my caregiving job anymore because obviously they needed someone else to come in. And she's like, you're going to come up and stay with me until you're better, and you can find a job from up here. Well, within a few weeks, man, my health just turned around amazingly. I didn't go to the ER once.
Wow.
And, at the end of all that, I asked her, like, what would you think of me just staying? Like, clearly I'm much healthier up here. And she's like, that's what I was hoping. So that was great. And so I came up here for a 6-week visit. I didn't leave.
Amazing. Was this in Palmer?
No, this was actually down on the peninsula. She was in Soldotna. So as far as farm animals and stuff, it just with some health conditions and some autoimmune stuff, my rheumatologist suggested I get into quail and honeybees and stuff, because they had a lot of nutrition and, they help people who couldn't eat much put some weight on and strengthen. Their protein is more available. And then they also have a little magic trick. Any allergens they're exposed to, they give their chicks natural antihistamines for in their eggs.
Yeah.
So we put like cat fur or pollen heads in the eating egg pens. And as long as I'm eating the eggs, I can even go and pet the cat and hang out outside.
It's funny that you say that. I actually learned something about that from the Farm and Garden Show. I was talking to a nutritionist.
Yeah.
He was saying that it's one marketing bonus of eating local eggs is that the chickens or the quail or the poultry will be building antibodies for their natural environment. And then as you eat them, you can build it. So if you're eating eggs from Brazil, well, you're building up tropical antibodies, which really don't help you here in Alaska. So that's why you should be eating Alaskan eggs, not eggs from out of state. So it sounds like the same with quail.
And that magic trick, I always tell people, that's a 5 to 7 days before those start to break down.
Okay.
Because when they're giving that antihistamine to their chicks, it's dependent on that chick starting to develop while that's in there. But those break down. Another cool thing is they aren't susceptible to the diseases that like chickens are. They're known as, I tell people they're the possums of the poultry world. Their body temperature is 2 degrees higher than other poultry.
Really?
Which means they just don't get most of the diseases.
Okay.
And then they have natural anti-inflammatories in them. So people with joint pain or arthritis or even people like with gout and stuff can eat quail eggs, and they'll actually help with a lot of those problems. So,
wow.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
That's really cool. I don't know hardly anything about quail. I just know that my favorite one is the Bob White.
Yeah.
I like listening to them.
Their sound is super cool. The only reason I don't really stock those, I'm trying to bring quail to Alaska, quality quail. because they're just so much hardier than any of the other poultries. They're fine down to -15 as long as they have like an insulated, windproof place.
Yeah.
Like some people just have their meat pen like wrapped in tarps. I've got a friend, she buys old broken like igloo coolers. And so she'll cut a door out of it and she'll put them with a bunch of straw in there, which is a good insulator.
Yeah.
And the birds will just go in there and keep each other warm right down to like -15. If it gets any lower than that, I bring them inside the breeder shed, but not for long.
Yeah, yeah. So if folks are able to take care of chickens, would you say that they should have the skills to take care of quail? Are
Easily.
they just as hardy? Because when I look at them, they just look so small and frail, and so I would
Yeah,
be
you'd
careful.
think so, but a lot of the quail that was available out here was from a feeder farm. It was a quantity over quality breeder to the point that our local like 4-H kids had a much lower standard when they were being judged for temperament and showing the quail, because the ones up here were just, they were not show or breeder quality.
Okay.
Which is fine when you've got a meat pen, you just want big birds.
Yeah.
You know, but when people actually want to raise quail, especially if you get it from a reputable breeder who breeds for health and temperament and, you know, larger egg size, but make sure they have the bone structure to support the bigger eggs and the more meat.
Where's your farm located, and when did you start it?
I'm over in Wasilla by Home Depot.
Okay.
And I took it from hobby to business 2 years ago now. And the main thing I wanted to do was to bring quality quail up here. I remember you were asking as far as are they easier than chickens? They are, because quail, like I said, they're way more cold hardy. They're not big fans of the heat, which is fine. Up here we get heat a couple days a year that's, you know, enough to bother them. They're ground birds, so they don't need a big chicken coop. They're fine in a rabbit hutch.
Okay.
But you also have to breed aggression out of them, like a zero tolerance policy for the last 5 years. If a quail shows aggression, not just teenagers, you know, practicing mating, but actually trying to harm each other or being possessive or if they're super skittish and like squawk when you try and hold them. I have not bred those, and now after years, mine hatch cuddly. But the practical benefit of that is they also don't startle easily. They're not gonna, you know, break a wing or pop up and break their neck because they got startled.
Yeah.
Which just makes them an easier bird to take care of if they don't care if you reach in, hand them some treats, grab the eggs, you know, pet them, whatever, clean their cage without them panicking. And
Okay.
unlike chickens or pretty much any poultry, they start laying at 6 weeks old, and they will lay every day for the rest of their life.
Wow.
I've got a hen who's 4.5, and she still gives me about 5 eggs a week.
Wow.
Yeah. She's an old girl. She's mostly a nanny.
Yeah.
So she gets to hang out with the chicks because she likes the heat now because she's old.
Yeah. So would you say your farm is the business model? Is it mostly, are you selling quail to locals, or are you raising meat birds? Are you selling eggs? Are you doing a little bit of all three?
Absolutely. All of the above. And that's like one reason I don't go with bobwhites is because Coturnics lay year round and bobwhites are seasonal. Okay. Whereas a bobwhite's more likely to incubate their own eggs. Coturnics are not. So that's just one reason I think.
And you don't want them necessarily to incubate their own eggs.
The Coturnics aren't great about it. They'll sit on it for a week to 10 days, and then the last few days, they're just like, they've lost interest.
And that's when you gather them up and put them in the incubator.
Throw them in the incubator.
Okay.
It's mostly only happens now if, like, they're hiding them from me, which means, like, I don't realize they're sitting on a pile. And so then when I collect those eggs and throw them in the incubator, sometimes they'll hatch 3 or 4 days early.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is happening?
Wow. Are there different breeds for, say, if you want to raise them for meat versus if you want to raise them for eggs?
They're all Coturnics. The only ones I raise are jumbo or my line, I've worked it out to be an XL jumbo line.
Wow.
So jumbo means they hit 10 ounces at 10 weeks.
Okay.
And mine tend to hit 12 to 13 at 10 weeks. And mine will go all the way up. The boys have a tendency to be 14 to 16 ounces. And my girls are usually 15 to 17 and a half. Mm-hmm. Most people like to butcher them at 9 to 10 weeks because that's when that growth rate slows down.
Yeah.
And so they're less efficient on producing meat for the amount of food.
Yeah.
But quail are cool compared to chickens because they also, if you were to take a chicken egg and weigh it, and then you were to take however much quail eggs to equal the same weight, quail require a third of the feed to produce that chickens do.
So they're more efficient.
Yeah. And eggs to body ratio, like their eggs
Massive.
are at least 10% of their weight, if not more.
And they produce for a long time, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's, like I said, it all comes down to quality breeding, only getting eggs from quality breeders, so I don't have to start from scratch. Yeah. If you breed out the health issues, if, you have a zero tolerance policy on aggression or, like, the panicky, skittish, like, I don't mind if they're, like, they startle a little, but when they go crazy and, are flying up and hurting themselves, like, I don't keep that.
No, well, let's talk a little bit about the meat. I've never had quail, but I've had ptarmigan and rough grouse. Is it similar? Is it? Of course, it's probably better.
Ptarmigan have a little more gamey taste to them, just like in the quail eggs versus chicken eggs. Quail eggs don't have any of the sulfur taste to them.
Oh.
And they're more yolk than white.
Okay.
And there's more nutrition in a quail egg, even a smaller one, than in a full-size chicken egg.
Really?
And as far as meat, it's very similar. You can put them in the, process them and put them in your freezer at 10, 11 weeks old and still be incredibly efficient for what they produce. And the flavor of their meat is very, I would say it's like turkey, but halfway between white meat and dark meat is their flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got all different recipes. My favorite is once they're processed, you leave them in ice water for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you put them in, I use a turkey brine, but I make it as strong as you would for a turkey. Mm-hmm. And the main thing, anybody who ever said that quail meat is kind of dry, the biggest thing you can do is spatchcock it up the breast instead of up the spine. Because if you spatchcock it up the spine, what happens is that thin, bony area, thin meat area goes to the outside, and the thickest parts are on the inside. Okay. Whereas if you go up the breastbone and you open it like a butterfly, that thick meat and the thick legs are to the outside.
Oh, okay.
And so I will barbecue it. And my favorite thing to do after it comes out of the brine is to put some hickory or mesquite chips on top of the coals. Ooh. And it's like smoked turkey, only kind of sweeter and way juicier.
That's amazing. So I'm not familiar with the term spatchcocking.
Okay. And
it sounds like it's a way that you prepare it.
One crazy thing about quail are on the clean list. They don't have the salmonella and those other diseases that would make their waste dangerous or would make their eggs dangerous if you didn't cook them all the way. Okay. They don't have any of that, to the point that there's a lot of people like that freeze dry or raw feed their dogs. Unlike, almost every other poultry, you don't have to gut a quail. You can dispatch it and fridge it or freeze it or give it straight to the dog raw.
Oh, wow.
And there is nothing in there that can make them sick.
Oh, my goodness.
And their collagen, when I'm done with them, I take all the bones and I just boil them. I get such thick collagen out of those. Wow. Which is, great for the dogs, great for yourself.
Yeah. So regarding preparation, would you say like the serving size is one quail per person for a meal? Or?
About. Okay. So if you figure they're butchered out, about 12 ounces when you butcher, you're going to walk away with about 9 ounces of meat.
Okay. So what do you...
And so, like, they can just be skinned,
Okay.
which they skin really easy. And unless you're specifically fattening them up to have more body fat, there's not really a reason to keep the skin.
Okay.
But if you put them back on chick food for a week before you process your meals, then you get that, like, bigger buildup of meat.
Wow.
And, or of fat. And then, you don't have to add any fats or anything. And obviously it's going to be a bigger bird.
Yeah.
But, so when I say spatchcock, it means that you cut down that breastplate.
And
You
then you
cut
flay
the
them
bird
out.
in half and then you open it out. And so that means that, the two sides of the chest are now on the outside. And
Yep.
the legs do the same. And I have a running joke that I tell people, like, you've heard of jerk chicken? Well, if you spatchcock your bird this way, I joke around that they're twerk quail. Because when you do that, their little booty's up in the air when you cook it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, now let's talk a little bit about the egg laying side.
Okay.
What are some like tips, tricks? Tell us about
Light.
egg layer.
Light is going to be your biggest thing.
Like a heat lamp.
I do know. Okay, so there's one, and I'm sure we'll get into safety in a bit, but I do not use heat lamps. I mean, the babies, but they're in the house. And it's on top of hardware cloth. I know it's not, the bulb isn't going to fall out and start a fire, that kind of thing. So because my quail have their own building outside, I don't run a heater. And if it's like -20, I'll go ahead and like plug the heater in and sit and have coffee while I warm it back up. Because I don't want my eggs to freeze, because then it hurts their viability. And they also expand, which means they can go bad through micro cracks. So quail need 14 hours of light a day, but it's a really low level of light that's needed. If you just have a string of LED Christmas lights, that's plenty. As long as it's something you could read by, if you were to walk up and like look at a page under that light, if you can read, it's bright enough.
Okay. And they produce almost an egg per day.
Yeah. I mean, they start at 6 weeks. The only ones that aren't giving me an egg every day are the ones that are like 3 years old.
And chicken, is the same way.
Well,
they stop even earlier.
Chickens are freeloading, especially here in Alaska. They freeload for half the year. And so the main goal I have of bringing good quail to Alaska is that they're perfect for homesteads.
Yeah.
You can plant a clover lawn and there's at least half of your feed. You don't have to be so dependent on commercial feed.
Yeah.
Veggie scraps, grind them up.
Yeah.
Just don't use cilantro or onion skins.
No, given how efficient they are and how hardy they are, I think they are perfect for homesteading. I would say there might be even a commercial opportunity for farmers up here.
It really is.
And when I look around, when I go to Hawaii, there's wild chickens because it's the perfect environment for chicken. But here in Alaska, I don't see wild chickens, but I have seen feral quail.
Yeah.
So that means that this environment is suited to quail.
It is. It really is.
Why fight against nature? Maybe utilize the poultry that are natural
And
here.
so, a lot of the purpose of homesteads, people's goals, are to be less dependent on the commercial market, which means if you then turn around and get animals so you can produce your own, food and like dairy products and stuff, but then you have to rely on commercial feed. Is that really efficient?
Yeah.
And with quail, because they lay year-round once they start, it's a lot bigger impact on a community's food security.
Yep.
Because they have enough nutrition that, if something horrible happens and we lose our supply line, you can stay alive on a few quail eggs a day.
Yeah.
Like, they have almost everything in them that you need.
Yeah. It makes sense. God kept the Israelites alive with quail for 40 years.
Yeah.
So they got to be pretty good for you.
Yep.
All right. Well, I would say the first step for folks to get into quail would probably try the meat and the eggs. Where are some great places people could buy them? Could they buy them from you?
Yeah. So I have people reach out a lot of the time, and they're like, "Oh, well, I want to try them before I decide that I want to raise them, because what if I get to where I don't like them?"
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, depending on if I've got any eggs that day that, got a little dent or something or whatever, they just need washed, and I won't incubate anything I had to wash.
Yeah.
I usually have a bowl in the fridge of washed eggs.
Yeah.
That, I'm happy to give someone a few, take it home, scramble it, see how you like it.
Yeah. They're
With meat,
expensive to buy at like a
They
restaurant.
are.
It's
They
fancy
are.
people food.
They really are. And it's not just that they're like creamier and better tasting. It's that they're just better for you.
Wow.
Especially people with like diabetes and heart disease. Because quail eggs have, I think, a third the bad cholesterol a chicken has, and then twice the good cholesterol.
Yeah.
Plus some other stuff. And if you want really rich eggs, I'll share my secret here. Fishing season, or, I want my freezer back season, which has a tendency to be like February. I get all the salmon meat, freezer burnt, doesn't matter. These guys are little predators. And so I'll take the meat and I just dehydrate it, or I just cook it, and then I take it out and give it to him. And I won grand champion on all eggs.
Wow, congratulations.
At the fair this year. And she says, I've been judging eggs for years. I've never cracked one open and so badly wanted to just eat it because that yolk was just orange. And it had no like bad smell to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so she ended up buying some birds. And yeah, they're also great like for people who have allergies to other kinds of eggs.
Good.
But yeah.
So medicinal.
Salmon.
People should be eating
If
the eggs.
you can trade your fisherman friends to bring you the head and the skeleton and the roe, and and you give them eggs or quail meat or whatever for it.
It's
I'm
funny.
big on bartering.
We used to have chickens over at the farm I'm at, and we would feed them microgreens every week because I have a microgreen farm, throw them scraps. But it sounds like I need to get quail some micro chickens over there and maybe sell the eggs. So that sounds like you've convinced me. This
Go
sounds
for
like a
it.
good idea.
I don't put a lot into selling eating eggs. My primary is getting quail into the homes of people. I just partnered up with Polaris Hatchery.
Oh, good.
They're going to get my price list. So if anybody's like, do you have quail? He's like, I get that a couple times a
Really?
week, 8 months out of the year.
Okay.
And then when they ask me, well, do you have anything but quail?
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, but here's my partner over there does.
And I was going to ask, actually, one of the final questions is, are they related at all to guineas?
No. They're their own little subclass of critters. And you mentioned meat. I'm actually talking to that butcher shop about them being able to take pre-orders for it.
Wow.
And so then people who want to eat the meat. Another option is, reaching out to me or going on my website. I have a class that's $15. I will show you how to butcher one, and you take the meat home.
Okay.
So if you think you want them for meat animals, especially if you're just getting into it and don't know if you can actually dispatch one, or if you're going to like the meat, like that's one of the first steps.
And this is a perfect way to wrap up today's show is actually, talk about if you have a website, social media, and then any classes that you have coming up.
Yeah, I have my website through Shopify. It's thequaillife.com. And on there, I have some of the cages that are actually available to import here that aren't incredibly expensive. People can come and bring their birds, and I'll go through and help them learn how to sex them, learn what visual markings and then what structural processes show you this is a boy, this is a girl. I have bred the aggression out of my line to the point where I guarantee permanently that if a bird is aggressive, I will replace it. I'm that sure that my birds are chill.
Yeah.
And
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then you have social media?
I do. Quail Life on Facebook. And
all right.
yeah. And I also, Quail Addicts Anonymous is also my group.
Okay.
Because once you start hatching them, you want every color available.
Yeah.
'Cause, it's just like chicken math.
Cool.
It's just quail don't take up as much room.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming in today. This has personally been very fascinating for me. I knew nothing about quail. I love your logo of a quail with the Thug Life glasses.
Yeah.
The Quail Life, that's funny to me.
Can I tell you how that happened real quick? Okay, so with the Quail Life, I was sitting there weighing chicks, tracking their growth, and then I'm weighing eggs that are coming out of my breeders to make sure they're good and consistent, and then I had the stuff to weigh out different ingredients to make my own booster that I give my girls when breeding season starts so that their eggs are super loaded with nutrition, which means stronger, healthier, faster growing chicks. So I'm sitting there weighing stuff, and he tells me, "You look like you're getting ready to hit the street corner with your stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, Thug Life." And I'm like, "Wait, Quail Life."
Yeah.
And I was like, I can make a logo out of that. I'm going to have the little bird with the Thug Life hat and glasses.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you. You clearly know a lot about quail. You know your stuff. Super fascinating. I'm going to try to bring you to my convention this year because I think a lot of Farm Bureau members would find this very fascinating.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we'll keep in contact. Do you have any final things to say to our audience?
I am always open to answering any questions you have about quail, specifically Coturnix. But, I was a vet tech when I was 20 years ago, much younger, and I worked with a lot of game birds and birds of prey. So when it comes down to health questions, because, as much as we love our little quail, it's not really logical to take them to the vet and stuff. And so I'm always open to answering people's questions. It never gets old to me. No. I really love teaching and bringing these into more homes because they're very suited for Alaska.
Yeah. Well, 2 years in, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to Ag Matters. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
You've been listening to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska. Ag Matters is a production of Radio Free Palmer, recorded at our studios in Palmer, Alaska. For more information about this program, email manager@radiofreepalmer.org.